I think we'll do roll call first. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you. Mayor Rochelle Arizmendi.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Denise Delmar.
I'm here.
Councilmember Jean Goss.
Here.
And Councilmember John Capocha.
Here.
And Councilmember John Howard Reading is excused absent.
Great. Thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is for public comment. If anyone would like to comment on any item that is not on the agenda. No, but when it's not on here, I'm looking at the wrong item. Thank you.
I hate it when that happens.
I'm looking at the closed agenda. So if we can all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I will ask Councilmember Jean Goss if he can lead us, please.
Please place your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it is the Thanksgiving season. It's coming up next week, and with all the craziness in the world that we like to forget about, there's still a lot of things that we are and should be grateful for. So I thought I'd cut to the chase and do a pre-Thanksgiving Thanksgiving prayer. If you would all bow your heads and join me. Dear Lord, we give thanks for our blessings as we pray for those in need. We give thanks for our families and friends as we pray for those who are lonely. We give thanks for our freedoms as we pray for those who are oppressed. We give thanks for our good health as we pray for those who are ill. We give thanks for our comfort and prosperity as we share our blessings with others. On the day of Thanksgiving, may the love of God enfold us, the peace of God dwell within us, and the joy of God uplift us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you.
Okay, Assistant City Clerk Watley, if you can please report out from closed session.
There are no reportable actions.
Okay, thank you very much. And if we can get approval of the agenda, I know we have one item, our presentation, that will be postponed until our next meeting. But other than that, do we have an approval for the agenda or any modifications or edits?
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. And the next item is the approval for minutes. We have two sets, October 3 and October 24. And if you'd like to take them separately, we can. And or if we have approval for both, we can have a motion for both minutes.
I'm good with both.
I'll second that.
Was it first?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and that.
I will
motion-
abstain from the 24th because I wasn't here.
Okay. And so that is approval for third and one at Council. Mayor Pro Tem Delmar will abstain from the 24th. That motion carries. Okay, for mayor and city council reports, who would like to start?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I did attend the San Gabriel COG's annual conference, and the theme was on transportation. I'll just comment on one thing. There was a fellow from Uber, a vice president for communications from Uber, that gave a really interesting presentation about the future of driverless cars. And there is a big impact, potential impact on cities. Not so much Sierra Madre, but he says it's possible, like Ford or General Motors will own fleets of hundreds of thousands of cars, and because there's no driver, people will own less cars. It's be much cheaper to use Uber, and there's a sales tax revenue problem for cities. Of course, we don't have a Rusnak here, but that could be a huge impact. He also said it's already creeping up is drop-off points. In some cities that are a little bit crowded, Uber drivers are double parking to drop people off, and he said that is something the cities might have to look at, is like designating drop-off and pickup points for Uber in our downtown areas. So, yeah, so it could really change things. Land use as well. Why require homes to have two-car garages when it could be that families will have no cars or just one car, because Uber and Lyft are so cheap and convenient. And just how much space that cities dedicate to parking that may not be necessary, that could be repurposed to other use. So it's really fascinating. As you know, if you don't sit and think about it, you don't really anticipate those kinds of things. But it could be quite a revolution that's coming. So I just wanted to share that.
Interesting.
It was pretty interesting.
We might see that sooner than later.
Yes, that was the other point. It could happen very, very fast.
Thank you. Anything else that you'd like to report
No.
on, Councilmember? Anyone else?
Just a quick one. I was up at the Dapper Field Sunday, and just wanted to comment that the folks running Pony League up there, fall ball that's going on, just looked great. It was the huge crowds, lots of kids out playing. It's playoff time, and the diner, Heather's Hut, is going full-fledged, and it was just a great time. I hadn't been up there in a while, so I wanted to compliment everybody involved in Pony.
I have a question. I'm just wondering if our city manager has ever been up to the ball fields to have a hamburger.
I have done both, yes.
You have?
I
Okay,
have.
good.
I would just like to remind everybody, if you or if you don't know, that our Senator Portantino will be in town on Saturday from 10 to 12. He'll be downtown visiting our businesses and then meeting with folks in Kirsten Court. So if you have any questions or want to come talk to Senator Portantino, please come down.
Great, thank you. You know, I attended Pasadena Educational Foundation. They had a luncheon for the principal for a day, but this was like a month ago, and I did not report on it, but I just, for some reason, got reminded of it. But I don't know how many of you know that our middle school here has, is one of a pilot project of sorts for a math academy. And we've got 8th graders that are completing calculus. It really is quite amazing. I have yet to visit it, but we're really excited to be part of what Pasadena Unified is doing. And I can tell you this much, I don't think I was doing calculus. I know I wasn't doing calculus in 8th grade, but to have some of these kids, and they're going to, they're hoping they're going to see them getting accepted to places like the Caltechs and the MITs, but to be that accomplished at such a young age is quite impressive. So I'm hoping I can report out on that once I visit there. Congratulations to our staff and our volunteers in the city for just really a successful Halloween few days, from the parade to the businesses opening to the costume contest. It really was amazing. And I'm just going to give a quick shout out to my neighbors across the street. They did a family costume, and I think they won first place. But he was a Sierra Madre trash can, and the entire family were bears, and it was really cute. And they would do this little act where the little ones would attack him, and the trash can would fall over. But really, it was just such a great event. Everything was just so well organized. And so, again, thank you to all the staff that helped organize that, and to the volunteers. Lastly, another thing I did not get to attend, but I know we did our opening for Highland Muse, and I don't know, maybe someone can report on that. Did you attend that?
Yeah, I did.
Do you want to share a few words about that?
Yeah, the place looks beautiful. So I'm just really thrilled about that because as I was my comments to when we had a little ceremony was I've lived here for, I think, 34 years now, and that place has never really looked that good, all these years. So living just down the street from it, I just thought it was fantastic, a win-win. We were able to provide medium income housing, and the 3 folks that are in contract and haven't closed escrow yet are Sierra Madre residents. So I was really happy to hear that. I don't know if they're veterans or not. That was one of the criteria that we had as far as the priority. So I'm really thrilled about that. But they look really nice. They're very, very attractive inside. So I think the folks moving in are going to be really happy.
Well, it's nice to see a plan go into fruition and actually see it move forward, so that's great. Thank you. And the last thing I wanted to just make an announcement on is our Pasadena Humane Society and SPCA on November 18th. We'll be holding a low-cost wellness clinic. So I know my dog's overdue for vaccines, so hopefully I can be there. But it's Memorial Park, 10 to 12:30 on November 18. Low rates for vaccines, and microchip and pet licensing also available. So if you are not even just a resident. If you're close by, you have that opportunity to take advantage of that clinic. Okay. So moving on, since we have our presentation from Director Tom Love, we'll be moving that to the next meeting. We will now open it up for public comment. So for any item that is not on the agenda, if you would like to make a public comment, please state your name and your address. And you have 3 minutes to speak.
Caroline Brown, Alta Vista Drive. I'm here to talk to you about the emergency horn. And I understand that it has not been sounding for some short period of time here, and it's in the process of going through some repairs and some maintenance. But I think you've all been seeing lately headlines such as this. This is the LA Times, day before yesterday. Fire Safe News that I get online had an article about it as well. I first brought back the idea of getting our emergency horn online after going to a fireworks shop after one of the many fires in Santa Barbara a few years ago. The Southern California chapter of the American Society of Foresters was going on a tour of the Tea Fire, which had started up on the hillsides and just whooshed its way down the hillside into Santa Barbara. And they commented on the fact, gee, wouldn't it be a good idea if we had a emergency horn? And we were in the process at that point in time putting it together. And so I was proud to represent Sierra Madre and saying Sierra Madre's fire horn is almost ready to go. Then we raised money through Kiwanis Assistant and the Fire Safe Council at the time, and did whatever was needed to get the emergency horn rejuvenated. The survey went through town to get feedback from people as to what they would like in terms of its testing on a weekly basis, and there was a lot of variety of opinions, and why they didn't want it at all, some of them because it was noisy and so forth. You know, it has to be noisy because that's how you get people's attention. But anyway, when it was finally decided it would just be tested 1 day a week and at 5 o'clock in the evening and on a Friday, I thought, I have some concerns about that, but I'm not going to voice them yet because we're just so happy it got as far as it got. So at this point in time, since we haven't had it sounding for a while, I'd seriously like to recommend that it be sounded on Monday, at least if we're only going to do it 1 day a week, and at noon, because that gives staff some time to go, hey, that did not sound. We probably need to get a technician down there. Because as it is now, if it doesn't work on a Friday, you've got nobody generally in city offices anyway on Friday, and you have to wait till Monday to find out, and you might not find out anyway because nobody heard that it didn't sound. I'd really like to see that we follow some of these other communities that are now double thinking as to why they didn't get their fire horns out sooner or at all in what is now being called the North Bay Fire Complex all the way up to Redwood Valley. That was the area where they really could have used a low technology fire horn because the winds flattened everything electronic, absolutely everything electronic. We had that happen here in Sierra Madre. I'm not going to talk about the windstorm. I'm actually going to talk about the earthquake at the 9th hole at some golf course out toward Brea somewhere, and their cell towers went down because people were on the phone saying, did you feel it? Did you feel the earthquake? Did you feel the earthquake? So even stuff that seems sort of like, why would that be so profoundly interfering? It certainly was. So we have a really good system here. People need perhaps, I don't know where you get money for this kind of thing. Cities are strapped for money. But even something such as a small magnet that people could put by their telephone on the refrigerator that reminds them that if they should hear the horn sound in the emergency mode, that's not the testing mode. The emergency mode is 3 beeps, repeated, 3 beeps, repeated, 3 beeps, repeated, because anything in threes is an emergency. You don't have to know Morse code, dot, dot, dash, dash business. All you have to remember is you can even flash your lights 3 times. If you do it in a way that people go, that's not normal. Nobody sits around and lets their car flash lights like that normal. Nobody flashes their porch light like that normal. So anything in sets of 3, and that's what the alarm is supposed to do, the emergency horn is supposed to do in case of an emergency.
So, sorry,
We
so
need
Ms. Brown.
to get the word out to people, something as simple as an insert in the phone bill, but something that people won't throw away. I was thinking about that on my way down here. I was listening to 1630 on your radio dial. We used to say that everybody had an AM radio in their car, but that is not the case anymore. There are a lot of cars without them. So then we get back to the business of, you go down to Big 5, you get your little crank up, AM, FM radio, and you stick it in your car. You don't even need to worry if your batteries are going to die. You just have to have a little bit of arm power. So again, when you get finished through all of the regulations that the repairs that you're going through, I'd like the City Council to address when to test the horn, Monday, noon, so you have some time to deal with it if there's a malfunction, and one day a week may not be enough. You really need to keep people's attention. You have to keep people's attention. People really don't think about their own personal safety. They expect somebody else to do it for them, which is another reason why I really perked up when I saw a fireman say, everybody should have CERT training. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Mrs. Cotto from 56 West Miramonte. I have a bit of a sore throat, excuse me, but I'm here because I have a neighbor that's actually a tenant. Over the 15 years that we've lived down Miramonte, that continuously puts up a plastic tarp from the front of our property to the very back of hers. Now, I understand that the walls, and we have a wall that is 6 feet high, but this is unbelievably high. I've taken pictures so that you can see what I'm speaking of. I have, within the last 15 years, I have gone to City Hall and complained to the building inspector, which I did last month, because the plastic has gotten even higher. It's connected to a pine tree, and then at the front of our property, it's connected to our fence. I've asked her, please, to take this tarp down. It just isn't necessary. She has 25 umbrellas in the back. She can do whatever she wants. I don't care. But this is not normal. The police department does nothing. They tell me, and I understand they say there's no code for this. Well, maybe we should think about that. We should think about possibly having a code against things like this. The owner passed away I would say about 4 years ago. And the son came, and I complained to the son. I said, listen, the umbrellas are fine. 25 umbrellas, everybody lives the way they choose to live. But the plastic, I'm sorry. You see the pictures. That isn't normal. And it's hazardous. During the summer when it was 105, we were constantly concerned for fire. The pine tree is dry. She doesn't water the trees that often. We understand the fire that can be started there. That tree will go down. It's encroaching on our property, the tree itself, because it's so high. So I'm asking, and I'm here, and since no one else will do anything, I'm asking all of you to please take a look at this. We have to do something about this. There should be some kind of a law or ordinance against something like this.
What was your address, ma'am?
56 West Miramonte. And I put the address of the property there.
58 West is the...
56.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a look at this and see if there's any options that we can get back to you on.
I would appreciate it.
What is the,
Thank you.
what is the purpose of the tarp? I'm sorry. What is the purpose of the tarp?
Well, years ago, when we built the house 15 years ago, we had the builder put up a block wall. There were two gentlemen living, and I didn't even notice it, but I would hear music. There were two gentlemen living there adjacent to the wall in a man-made, whatever that was. It was told to me by the gentleman that was installing the wall. So I complained, and the city came, and they had them removed. I don't know what the tarp is out about. I don't know what the umbrellas are out about. I know that there's been at certain occasions, there's been some illegal activities going on there, but you know what? I haven't said anything about that. This is ridiculous. You see how high that tarp is. And it's embarrassing when the family comes to visit or we have friends come to visit. Everyone says, what is that? I have no idea. I have offered to pay to have the pine tree cut down because we are afraid of fire in the summer when it's so hot. That if the plastic tarp catches fire, the tree, if normal, it's going to catch fire. Well, where is that going to lead us? It's going to fall on our home because it's adjacent to our block wall. So it's so hazardous.
So we will see whether it's going to be staff or one of us. We'll get back to you and see what type of
I would
options we have.
appreciate
Okay.
that, please.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that's here for public comment for items that are not on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, I think that takes us to our action items and our consent calendar. And Mr. City Manager?
Mayor, on the consent calendar this evening is item 1A, adoption of Resolution 1756 of the City Council of the City of Sierra Madre approving certain demands. B, consideration of cancellation of December 26th, 2017 City Council meeting. C, second reading of Ordinance 1394, amending the City Building Code to exempt fences up to 6 feet in height from the building permit requirement. D, award of a professional services contract to RKA Consulting Group for engineering design services for the design of fiscal year 2017-2018 street improvements. E, award of a professional services contract to Onward Engineering for the design of the fiscal year 2017-2018 water main replacement project. And staff would like to remove item 1F from consideration this evening.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. City Manager?
I do have one question on, let's see, item E. I'm just kind of curious how that one bid could be so much lower than everything else. It looks good, too good to be true.
We have Director Semino address that, please.
Good evening, everybody. We did question that also with the engineering firm, and the firm guaranteed us that this is a good number, that they think that they can complete the project for this number. They said that they're a smaller firm, they don't have the overhead that the bigger firms have, and that all the references we contacted about Onward were positive. They said that they've completed projects and that they were the lower bidder substantially on their projects also.
Yeah.
How long has the company been in existence? Or are they a new company? Or
They've been in existence for over 5 years.
Okay.
That's what they told us.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Yeah. And Mr. City Manager, for item F, is that something we'll expect on the next agenda?
Yes, Mayor, we'll have that at the next meeting.
Okay. Any other questions on consent items A through E? Okay, seeing none, we'll open this for public comment. If anyone in the audience would like to comment on any of the consent items reported. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring that back to council for discussion and or a motion.
I'll move that we accept or approve the consent calendars, item 1 through, or A through E.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries unanimously. Okay, next on the agenda is our public hearing, and our first item is first reading of ordinance 1390, and I'll ask Planning Community Preservation Director Gonzalez to come to the podium, please.
Thank you. We do have a PowerPoint presentation. So the City Council will conduct a public hearing this evening to consider a municipal code text amendment that would amend Title 8 of the Health and Safety Code and by establishing Chapter 8.18, a vacant residential property registration requirement. That requirement or program is specifically to protect residential neighborhoods from becoming blighted through the lack of inadequate maintenance and or security of vacant properties. And the ordinance would impact residential zones, including the one-family residential, two-family residential, hillside management, and residential canyon zones. The intent of the ordinance is to address concerns regarding vacant properties. To date, there are 47 known vacant properties in the city. Typical complaints include the lack of activity and oversight that often result in deferred maintenance, specific to landscaping and building maintenance, general maintenance upkeep, and the potential to cause depreciation of property values to surrounding homes. Again, I'd like to remind everyone that generally vacancies are not perceived to be a public safety issue. There are some properties that are vacant that are well maintained, have security systems. They just don't have occupants that are living there full time. And also the other issue comes up in terms of trying to contact a local person who will make the ordinance, or which makes the ordinance difficult to enforce. Sometimes if we do have property owners that are either out of state or out of the country, it's very difficult to take corrective action and trying to reach them. In terms of the benefit to neighborhoods, we believe that the benefit will be somewhat marginal because the ordinance can only address maintenance concerns. The city cannot require the property to be occupied. The objective of the Municipal Code Text Amendment, again, is to protect the health and safety of residential neighborhoods through a registration requirement. And the ordinance will also serve the property owner by providing immediate notification if there is a public safety hazard at the property and we need to contact them. We would have that contact information through this registration requirement. And again, the owner registration requirement, just wanted to point out, is not considered a public records, therefore is not subject to a public records request, which came up as a concern and was addressed by the Planning Commission. So the information will only be utilized by city staff and public safety personnel in the event of an emergency and or maintenance code violation. The structure of the overall ordinance consists of three components: a registration requirement, a property maintenance plan requirement, and security requirement. The registration requirement indicates that the property owner shall designate 3 points of contact, and those points of contact will be responsible for the property. That still could be the property owner themselves, or it could be other responsible parties, such as a property management company or even a real estate agency. The status of a vacant residence is to be established if there is evidence of vacancy that has been occurring for a period of 60 consecutive days or longer. And upon notification of evidence of vacancy, the property owner or authorized property shall register the property within 10 days and shall pay an annual registration fee. Persons required to register real property shall also report in writing to the city any change of information contained within the registration, and that includes reoccupancy as well. So the property maintenance plan that is part of the registration requirement will allow staff to be able to monitor and make sure that the property is going to be maintained. And the maintenance plan is fairly brief. It does require a general landscape maintenance, annual brush clearance if that's applicable, building maintenance to ensure that the exterior of the building is secure, free of pests, and maintained in a manner consistent with the neighborhood. And if there's also swimming pools or other bodies of water, that those also be maintained. Security requirements, so the responsible parties at time of registration shall submit an emergency waiver to the city, and the registration or emergency waiver will authorize the police department to remove and or arrest all unauthorized persons from the property, and will also allow the fire department, code enforcement officer, and or public safety personnel to access the property to respond to health and safety hazards such as water main breaks, felled trees, brush clearance requirements, wildlife nuisances, and vector control issues. The City Council will determine under separate resolution if an annual registration fee should be required to register vacant properties. So that'll come before you at a later time if this ordinance is passed. The alternatives before you The City Council can adopt Ordinance 1390, amending Title 8 of the Health and Safety Code, establishing Chapter 8.18, the vacant residential property registration requirement. That is included as Attachment A in your packet. The City Council can also adopt the ordinance with any revisions that you would like to make, or you can deny the ordinance stating the reasons for denial, or continue the matter and provide direction to staff. Wanted to point out that the Planning Commission did approve the ordinance via Resolution 1706 on August 17th, 2017, and that approval was unanimous. So therefore, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt Municipal Code Text Amendment 1705, amending Title 8 of the Health and Safety Code, establishing Chapter 8.18, vacant residential property registration requirement pursuant to Ordinance Number 1390, and to establish by separate resolution a registration fee based on the cost recovery fee analysis. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. I see that you've costed this out from a staff point of view. Does that necessarily mean that we have the staff time available for this?
I would imagine we do have the staff time available. It will take some research to be able to, especially to try to contact a property owner that we have known that maybe a property had some violations. We've been trying to work with them. Very difficult to try to research that. And that's why we dedicated at least an hour of a code enforcement officer to allot that ability to be able to do that research and hopefully make contact with the property owner.
So with all the other things they're doing, this is doable.
So, the registration is, and also following up on complaints, or if we suspect there is a vacancy. This is not an ordinance that we will likely proactively enforce. But if it's an ordinance that we certainly have enough time to enforce, if we get complaints from neighbors about a vacancy and there's graffiti or overgrowth, or they fear squatters, then this is a tool we can use to enforce it that way. But it will not be something we proactively enforce.
Okay, thank you.
And you're not going to proactively enforce it because it's difficult for the city to find out? I mean, how would you know? Is that the issue?
Well, proactive enforcement on how it's written, if it's not lived in day to day, if a house is for sale, that's vacant, are we going to have our code enforcement time checking for sale signs? Likely not.
Yeah, that's.
So it's a tool to use once vacancy is likely.
Yeah.
Then we can follow up on it.
Yeah, okay.
And you may not be able to answer this question, but known 47, do we have any idea? There could be double, triple
There
the
could be
amount?
more.
Yeah.
Most of the 47
Yeah.
that we know about were specific to complaints from residents.
So does the 47 include vacant homes for sale?
There are some vacant homes for sale, but not a lot. Some of them are actually in entitlement process
Okay.
for a new replacement project.
Okay, all right. Are there any other questions for Director Gonzalez? Okay, seeing none, we can open this up. This is a public hearing. So if anyone in the audience would like to comment on this item, please step forward and state your name and address.
Caroline Brown, Alta Vista Drive. I was surprised to see the number 47. I was going to ask, but it was in the report. I know that Arcadia faces a lot more than that, and what has happened down there, not going to be the same kind of problem here, but it's good that it's stated in the way the ordinance is written, is wildlife issues, because these become habitats for animals. There's a place down in Arcadia, almost next to the freeway, where they think there's about 20 avocado trees, and the bear lives there by himself. He doesn't go anywhere else. He just says, "This is it. I'm here."
Right on the freeway.
Yeah,
It's a resort.
exactly. But most people here in town know, and Sierra Madre, of course, is a wildlife sanctuary as of 1972 resolution. It's not an ordinance as such, but we take it to heart. So we want to do right by the animals, people that allow for a lot of shelter, food, and the food is in the form of rodents that come after your rotting fruit in the backyard. They might eat it as well, but the rodent might be more attractive to eat, especially in the case of a coyote. So that plus the vector issue with swimming pools and things like that, because it's not just the swimming pool in the pond that turns yellow and they look at from overhead with the helicopters, but even just buckets of water that got left behind by the landscaper that didn't remember to take home the pot that he planted the geranium from. So it depends on what kind of attention is brought to it, like it was stated by the city manager. You'll have people that'll point out to you in a reasonable way that something is abandoned and needs attention because it's causing a problem on so many levels, as is mentioned in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment on this public hearing item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring this back to discussion to the council.
Well, I would just like to say this was brought to us by a resident, quite a few residents. It sounds to me that the registration requirement now is a tool for us to use to help some of those problems that we have. And I thank the Planning Commission and Director Gonzalez for putting this together and moving so quickly on it.
Just add my voice to that. I think it's
Yeah.
a good idea. I don't know how much help it'll be, but I think it'll help some.
Ditto.
One question I didn't ask Director Gonzalez, but in terms of the fee, if we do approve this today for a first reading, when do we expect it to come back to us for a fee approval, and then when would it be enacted?
I believe the item is included as part of a series of fee adjustments at your next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Is there any consideration if people voluntarily registered before you had to reach out to them to make their fee lower?
The commission did actually discuss that, and people can certainly do that. And actually, in the ordinance, did give that allowance for people actually going on vacation, just to alert the city or the police department that the property is vacant. So that's kind of a volunteer item that's included in the ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other points of discussion?
No.
Okay. And I think we need a motion for approval for the first reading.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that motion is carried unanimously. Okay, and our last item on discussion is a consideration of resolution 17-58, and it looks like we have Annalise Carlson at the podium to present this item.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Item number 3 before you this evening is a consideration of Resolution 1758. It involves the appointment of a director and alternates to represent the city of Sierra Madre in the Joint Powers Agreement for the Los Angeles Community Choice Energy Program. We often refer to that as by its acronyms LACE. At your last meeting, the council unanimously approved the second reading of Ordinance 1393, which enabled us joining the JPA and joining the LACE program. The next step in the process is to appoint one director and up to 2 alternates to represent the city at the regular and then possibly special meetings. The director must be an elected official and the alternates can be staff members. I believe that the next LACE Board of Directors meeting is going to be December 7th and this year in downtown Los Angeles. I attended the one on November 1st to get a feel for the flavor of the meetings and such, and I believe that they're going to continue to hold them downtown, so that might come into your considerations. So finally, staff is recommending that the council appoint a city council member to the LACE Board of Directors, adopt Resolution 1758, approving the appointment of the council member as director and city manager Gabriel Engelin and myself as alternates. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Mr. Carlson?
Are these held during the day? The meetings are held during the day?
Yes, and yeah, I think I just attended one of the very early meetings. I think that's the point of it. I was in downtown from 1:30 to about 4 o'clock.
Mayor, also on the recommendation, if multiple council members are interested, staff would be happy to have one alternate spot for staff, and we'd recommend Mr. Carlson in that.
Great, because that would be my question. Thank you.
I think we don't have that.
We may, no, I know we do. So do we have any other questions for Mr. Carlson? Okay, seeing none, we will open this up for public comment. If anyone in the public would like to comment on this discussion item regarding appointment to, I hear Lacey and Lace. Is it Lace? Lacey? Lace?
However you want to emphasize.
I hear both, so if anyone would like to comment on this item. Okay, seeing none, we can bring this back for discussion. And I'll just say that I know that Councilmember Capocha has been very involved, at least in terms of COG, and has seen a lot of the development of this entity. I also know that Councilmember Harabin has expressed interest in being the appointed director for Lacey. So I just wanted to bring that up and see if there's any discussion on that.
Either one, both, alternate.
I would suggest Councilmember Harabedian then. I think he'll do a good job with his legal background. So,
Would you be interested in the alternate position, sir?
no, I think it's good to have staff. So I think the way the staff recommendation is good. I mean, it works for me.
Did the daytime 1:30 to 4 o'clock scare you, Councilmember Capocha?
No, not at all. I just think Harabedian would be a great choice, and I think staff, the more they can be involved with this, the better, because they're going to do the bulk of the work when it comes time to implementing this anyway. So
Okay.
I'm good.
I'm glad he showed an interest, because I was actually going to nominate him. So
Well, I'll make the motion to appoint Councilmember Harabedian as the director. Is it the director? Appointment of the director for Lace Board of Directors and alternates. Do we have to put that one in order?
I don't think it matters.
Okay. Alternate City Manager Gabriel England and Management Analyst James Carlson as both alternates.
Okay, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that motion also carries unanimously. Great. Okay, wow. This one might have beat the first game of the world record meeting.
World Series.
World record. Well, both world record and World Series, so. Okay, are there any items that we'd like to bring for future agendas? Okay, seeing none. We'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you so much, everyone. Wow.